People who have family with dementia, what are tips of communicating with them? I have worked with a lot of people with dementia as a nurse, and the number one thing is never to argue with them or contradict them. You can't change their mind and they just get upset. They want to go to work? Sure thing, honey, let's get you up sitting in the chair until your bus gets here. They will forget in a bit, but if you argue with them, the stress sticks around. The goal isn't to have them oriented, it's to have them content. I don't know why it is that some people get really angry and paranoid with dementia and some people just vibe with everything, but it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with what they were like before. Also, people with dementia love to fidget with their hands. Look up fidget blankets. They are blankets made with little bits to play with, and they are great for keeping them entertaining. I currently take care of my grandma with dementia. I always talk in specifics. I never say, "Hey, what do you want for breakfast?" I say, "Do you want eggs or oatmeal?" Open-ended questions really confuse her, so I always give her options when I'm asking something like that. Also, just learn what motivates them. Each person is different. She gets mad about having to go to physical therapy. I tell her, if you go to PT, we can go walk around the mall. Instant mood changer. Just find out what makes them happy. When they refer to things that are no longer accurate, don't try to correct them, just redirect. For example, if Grandpa says, "We have to pick up Shelly after her exercise class," and starts looking for the car keys, don't bother reminding Grandpa that Shelly has died. It's upsetting for you and him, and he won't remember for very long. Instead, just say, "Okay, we will. But first, let's drink that tea while it's hot," or "Shelly's getting a ride from her friend today so that you can have lunch with me," and keep them distracted until they move on from that idea. Apologies to anyone with a late grand named Shelly. I try to choose a cute example name. In a similar vein, I try not to worry about whether my relative knows who I am, and I don't remind her. If she thinks I'm a nice nurse or something, that's fine as long as she's happy. My family member was often confused about what time of day, week, year it was and had terrible short-term memory. But he loved to talk about the past. When he'd start to sundown and get anxious and ask questions, I would ask him to tell me a story about his childhood or his early career. That often cheered him up a lot. Also, probably not everyone agrees, but I mostly avoided correcting him. If he was wrong about what day it was, what we did that morning, who was coming over, I mostly went with it, played music that they used to like. You may not get anything from them, but you might see a surprising reaction that shows you that they are still present, and not completely gone. Dementia, in my experience, my relatives were really focused on the past. If you play something familiar, it can spark memories. All of a sudden, their eyes light up. He has since passed a decade ago, but my grandfather got really bad. Didn't remember anyone. Would panic that my grandmother was in the house because he was afraid his wife would come home and see another woman in the house. Not only do you need to take every day a day at a time, but every moment. It can be exhausting, but it's what it takes. If you can't handle it, don't be ashamed to seek professional help. They won't remember what you said to them, but they will remember how you made them feel. The words themselves don't matter so much as the fact that you speak them with love. I remember talking to my grandfather before he passed. We were chatting it up like normal, then he started calling me by my dad's, his son's, name. I realized after a few times that it wasn't just a slip. That's when it really hit me. It depends how far along it is. My mom has dementia. At first it was helping her remember recent things because she forgot short-term memories. Then as it progressed, it was about bringing up memories from the past that she remembered. The further along it gets, the farther back you have to go. Asking about her childhood was always a go-to. It's a terrible disease and hard to watch a loved one go through it. Don't try to correct them. Just go with whatever they think is reality. Get ready for listening to the same story over and over. Respond each time as if it's the first time you've heard it. Stay in the moment with them. Remember they're communicating with you, and if you can just communicate back on their wavelength, you are in fact having a conversation with them. Notice the emotion coming out of their eyes. Is it love? Even if they don't recognize you, they know that it's someone they love, and that's the gift they're giving you. As my favorite hospice nurse told me when we were taking care of my dad, we don't need to be reality-based. It's the underlying emotions, that's all that matters, and that's where you'll find the true grace. Oh, P.S., if they are pretty far gone, they can usually still respond to music. You can play music for them and sit and hold their hands. Any peaceful moment with them is a beautiful moment and a beautiful memory to have. There's a lot of good practical advice here, so don't really need to add to that. I'll just say that even though it becomes more and more fleeting and infrequent, they are still in there somewhere. It's not quite the same, but there are still moments of connection and love to be had, even close to the end. I am sorry you are going through this. Don't fight the memories they do remember, and don't fight what they don't remember. My grandpa had dementia for many years before passing, and unfortunately we lost Grandma during a particularly nasty run of dementia. For years he would ask where Grandma was and tell us he was looking for her and couldn't find her. And my mom felt it was her duty to remind Grandpa she wasn't there, that no one was there, not the family he knew as a kid and the family he didn't remember. It wasn't him that was sad about the past family members, and it wasn't him who was broken and beaten down after visits. But when I would sit with him and he would ask where his sister was, deceased for many years, I would say I didn't know. What does she look like? How did she act? And I got so many stories I'm not sure my mom even ever heard. About his sister, his dad, living through polio and a horse stepping on his face. Okay, that last one was always his favorite to tell, even when I was little, but I knew it like the back of my hand, and hearing that he still remembered every bit of the story felt so good. I guess the best thing, in my unofficial opinion, is don't waste their, or your own, energy on fighting it. It's not curable. It can be treated, but never very well or for long. Use the time you have to talk about their life that they remember, and don't try to force them to remember. It's a shitty hand to be dealt, but no one wins if energy is misplaced. I used to bring photos of my grandfather when he was younger. Although he couldn't remember things in the present, things from the past seemed to be remembered more. It may or may not work, but it makes them think. Bring up memories of things they may remember. Show them pictures of old times. Play music they like or reminisce with them. Do hobbies they used to enjoy together, or just involve them with simple activities like washing vegetables when you're cooking. Most of all, be patient with them. They don't really know what they're doing anymore. They may get really annoying by constantly asking the same questions, or habits they might have picked up unconsciously. They may not remember why you got angry at them, but they remember the negative feelings that are now associated with you. Learn to let go of the annoyance and anger. It's also important for you to take breaks for your own mental health if you're their primary caretaker. Don't run yourself ragged and try to share the workload. Redirect and distract instead of trying to negotiate or reason with them. They're kind of like toddlers that way. I always announced myself when I entered my dad's assisted living apartment, and later nursing home. "Hi Dad, it's your daughter." I had feared my dad would forget who I was, but then I realized it also was an upbeat way to set the tone and make him feel at ease right away versus wondering who I was. I also made sure to be very clear with my directions versus me bouncing around ideas or thinking out loud, my tendency, and give him plenty of time to respond. To maintain a sense of control for him, we'd engage him in options for clothing that day. We'd hold up 2 different outfits and let him choose. We also bought him crazy socks. It was a great way to engage others to communicate with him. We didn't want him to become invisible. "Hey Papa, nice socks." It always brought a smile to his face. I found that my dad also liked to have company, and he listened to the conversations even if he couldn't partake. It's great if you can bring in a guest every now and then. It gives you all some energy. Posters mentioned telling stories. It fascinated me when my dad would be in a different time period in his mind. When he could, I just let him talk and ask questions. Honestly, I think going through this made me a better communicator. Our dementia has helpful information for caregivers of people with dementia. Simply listen and be present with them. They are human and want to feel safe, loved, heard and seen. Never ever argue. If someone wants to tell you the same memory or story 5 times in a row, simply listen and engage with their reality from a place of love. Hold their hand, read a short story, share a snack with them, color a picture together, keep whatever topics you talk about lighthearted, listen to music together, smile, a gentle hand on the shoulder or some type of light touch if welcomed may be coming. Love these folks as they are and meet them where they're at in life. Let go of any expectations from them you might have once had. It's hard as hell and so sad to see. Try your best not to get frustrated. This isn't the same person you once knew, but this person still wants to be loved. Play their favorite music. My mom is in a memory care facility. She is almost incoherent. Whenever I play the music she loved, she is almost lucid again.